Amazon have just revealed the patch 2 for the PTR for February and some interesting changes in there which I think most players will like. Now I'm not just going to sit here and read the whole patch notes, you can go and click it if you want to, I'm just going to focus on the key bits. But before we jump right in, I do want to say if you could come and follow me on Twitch I would be very grateful. I've started streaming a bit and I'd be happy to see you over there. And one of the big changes that they're doing is obviously with the Umbral Shards. Now we know in patch 1 that they were going to add Umbral Shards to Outpost Rush with 54 loss and 104 win. Well, they're taking that a little bit of a step further with how you can get it via Gypsum now, and now they're going to increase the amount you get per cast. So currently on the low end of getting a Gypsum cast you get 3 Umbral Shards, and on the max you get 200. They are now changing that and increasing that. So the minimum you're going to get will be 100 Umbral Shards and the maximum you're going to get is 400. Now the standout thing there is that the minimum of 100 is actually quite a lot. It now makes sense that if you get like 2 OPR losses you'll get the 50 and the 50 and then you'll get an extra 100 from the Gypsum casts. So that actually puts Gypsum like really back in the game basically, because right now the Gypsum is sort of like a nice little addition, but it's not something you necessarily need to farm on repeat because just doing a high level mutator is way more than the Gypsum casts. But this sort of changes that. With 400 at the max, that's like pretty damn decent. They're also increasing the amount of Umbral Shards you get from crafting a level 600 item. This is still probably not that amazing, so I don't think like the price of Void Ore is going to go shooting up or anything like that, but it's worth noting that crafting now will give you a few more Umbral Shards. And when it comes to Gypsum Orbs and getting those casts, well they're now going to add a Gypsum Orb to the faction shop. Now obviously you're going to be using your faction tokens there, so that faction grind will now be rewarded in terms of increasing your gear score. So that's actually a nice little addition. One of the big changes is a change to housing tax. Housing tax is officially getting almost completely decimated, and that's for individual players paying the tax. You're not going to be paying very much at all. They're reducing the minimum amount of tax that you can pay from 5% to 0.1. Keep in mind that it's actually the people who own that town who set this, but the maximum tax that a town can now set is not 10%, it's going down to 1%. However, the controlling faction will get 5 times the amount of tax that they actually set, and that's just to keep things balanced because obviously they have to pay the upkeep and that kind of thing. Really, that's like a massive change to housing tax. I never really found the tax system very fun. I still have a problem with where that gold is going to. I still think they're creating like a wealthy 1%, which I don't think is healthy for the game, but having individuals not pay like an excessive amount of tax, well, I think that's fine and dandy, and I think that's good because tax is not fun. This is a little change and I don't really know how they've done this, but they now say teleporting into a war is 2 times as fast. That's a nice little addition, but I mean, it's not a biggie. But what is a biggie is the fact that they are increasing the amount of XP you get per quest by 50% for every quest above level 10. That's not really that obviously going to impact people who are level 60, but if you're like a new player and you're coming to the game, that's going to allow you to catch up a lot quicker, combined with the fact that they're decreasing the amount of XP needed to level up later on. And then straight on to another big change, and that is with the Azoth travel cost. This again appears to be completely decimated. Long story short, it's now not going to matter how heavy you are or how far you're traveling, it's just going to have a base cost. And that base cost is only 20 Azoth. That is a pretty damn big change, and I'm sort of looking forward to that. They do admit that essentially lowering the cost of travel negates one of the reasons for owning a fort, but they say that they'd rather just address that later on and deal with this in the short term, and I sort of applaud them for that. They have also changing your in cooldown, so instead of it being 1 hour, it is now going to go to 15 minutes. Pretty massive changes that I think overall people will welcome. Quick notes on some of the weapon changes. They are nerfing the Void Gauntlet because they say it's a little bit too strong at just locking down an enemy and killing them before they have a chance to react. Petrifying Scream's cooldown is going up, and Orb of Decay is doing a little bit less damage. For the Rapier, they're concerned a little bit how a lot of people are taking it purely for its defensive capabilities, so they are nerfing its escape a little bit. The cooldown of Riposte is going up, and so is Evade. And Fletch, although I'm not sure that's how you say that. And then one that caused a lot of controversy on the PTR is the Gravwell. So they're basically ditching what they currently had and redoing it in a different way. Apparently it's going to more reliably pull your enemy into the center. Balls that are pulled into the center are going to be rooted for 1 second. The slow is going to be increased as well, and the slow is going to last until the gravity well explodes. Pretty solid buff to gravity well there. I think as long as that actually plays out like a buff, I think great axe users will be pleased with that one. I don't think those changes really do enough to really counter the hypermobility with the dodge being like so free now, because you don't actually have to swap weapons. It's a little bit easier to just pull off all the time, like in the midst of chaos. But I think overwhelmingly they're good changes. So let's recap what we have there. We have an increase in umbral shards via the gypsum system. That's good because it basically means all of your activities are actually going to feel rewarding and not just the expedition mutators. I honestly think that they just didn't realize that people just didn't want to have one way of progression, which is mind-blowing because you would think that they would realize that, but now they're opening the floor, and yeah, it's nice that it's coming. Very happy about that. I'm very happy with the tax change. I honestly think paying tax is never going to be a fun mechanic. Still a little bit worried about the wealth inequality, like of the super factions and super companies and that kind of thing, but that nerfing the housing tax, I think most players will be happy with that one. And the travel cost, it's sort of the same thing. That just sort of feels like it gets in the way. People are complaining that, oh, well, it now means that there's less of a reason to have the fort. Well, the reason you have the fort really is to try and push influence. I mean, other than that, right, people aren't really fighting over forts that much, or at least not on my server. So overwhelmingly, I think these changes are great. I'm very excited to see this. I might try and stream it on the PTR tonight, or it might just be at the weekend now, but very excited to try them, and hopefully we'll see them in game relatively soon. I sort of want it to be next week rather than the week after, but we'll see. But overwhelmingly, I think these changes are great. Obviously, the game's in a weird state right now. A lot of people are playing Lost Ark and that kind of thing. It's now time for New World to just settle its ground, get itself back on solid footing, and then build upon what it has, and not worry too much about what it's lost. If you like this video, do press like. If you're not subscribed to the channel interested in New World and MMOs, then please do subscribe. It really does help. Have a most beautiful day. Goodbye.